Honorable members, it's now the turn of the Majority Leader and the Leader of the House.
Right Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity to give these closing remarks, putting out my own views about this House as it comes to an end by midnight of today. It's a moment of emotion for me, having had the opportunity to lead the House a little over 9 months, and the fact that, Mr. Speaker, by tomorrow, I will be seated to the left of Mr. Speaker, leading the charge for and on behalf of the minority. Mr. Speaker, you rightly paraphrased your description of this 8th Parliament on various platforms and fora, and stated that it's been remarkable, characterized by unique milestones and challenges that have tested our democratic principles and governance. Mr. Speaker, one defining feature of this Parliament was its near equal composition, with 137 members from each side and 1 independent member. Notably, this Parliament elected the Speaker of the House from a party of the opposition, something which was and still continues to be novel development to our democracy. We also had an equal number of female representation from both sides of the aisle, 20 female members apiece, bringing female representation to 40, that account for 14.5%, the highest female representation in Parliament ever recorded in our 4th Republic. This Parliament, at both sides of the House, has had the course to change their leadership in order to give opportunity to some members to serve in the front bench. It is therefore right to conclude that the 8th Parliament truly pushed our parliamentary democracy to its limits and tested how far we can go with our practice of parliamentary democracy. Mr. Speaker, I rose from deputy leader to majority leader. In my days as a deputy leader in this House, I received a lot of good counsel, not only from our side, but from my friends opposite. I remember the quiet moments where they would call me to their office and engage me in spite of our disagreements in this House. Mr. Speaker, permit me to mention a few of them and thank them for the purpose of Hansard. Honorable Harun Idrisu, Honorable Rashid Pelpo, Honorable Kletos Avoka, my respected senior Adaba and brother, Honorable Ahiafo. Mr. Speaker, I also received good counsel from many of my own side. The first Deputy Speaker, Honorable Joe Osewusu, the second Deputy Speaker, was also very handy for us to discuss issues about governance in the chamber. But Mr. Speaker, not the least is the man I succeeded. For the purpose of Hansard once again, Mr. Speaker, this is a man who took it upon himself to get me to pay attention to parliamentary business. I always remember with nostalgia his first official traveled with me all the way to Hanoi, Vietnam. In his hand was his standing orders and the Constitution. He urged upon me to always read the standing orders and encouraged me to aspire for the leadership of the House. I am happy to say that in my days as his deputy, although he is not a lawyer, he was well versed with the standing orders and the Constitution. Before I could say a word, he knows where a particular provision is. And we worked together, gave me the opportunities to shine, and eventually made way for me to succeed him. Honorable Osei Che Mensah Bonsu, I thank you most sincerely. You defined my leadership. You played a key role. We may have our differences, but I want to say that you have made it possible for me to stand on my feet today, especially as I enter opposition and to lead outside in minority. It is that which I learned from you that I will depend on to make a headway in my leadership. Mr. Speaker, there were great elderly senior members on my side, such as Honorable Kennedy Japon, Honorable K.T. Amon, who were also with me in moments of difficulty. I should thank also, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues in leadership, Honorable Anodompre, the Chief Whip, a workaholic being. Mr. Speaker, there were a number of times he had to sleep in Parliament to organize and make things work for me to take over as a leader. He and his deputies worked tirelessly in assisting me to manage a very difficult house. Honorable Dompre, Honorable Habib Idrisu, Honorable Alexander Tete, I say God bless you. I'm thankful to you for all you did. And my able deputy, she was more than a mother to me, to calm me in difficult moments. Her wise counsel has made it possible for me to lead the House till this day. We are both Catholics. She never ceased to remind me of the power of our rosary as Catholics. The morning prayers, the morning encouragements, calling me, Kwamena, let's pray. Madam Patricia Apieje, God bless you for all you did. And to my colleagues opposite, you made the best come out of me. I was always watching the videos of Honorable Eric Opoku. This is a man who can punch extremely hard with facts. You dare not challenge him, and I dare not challenge him, because he will take you to another level. Honorable Kwame Agbodza, we were there together in opposition. Those days, we struck a good accord. We had our own esprit de corps. And when you assume leadership, I thought I could explore that for a good way forward. You often disappointed me, but you got the best out of me. Kwame, thank you. And Ahmed Ibrahim, the deputy whip, he did all the dirty jobs. We disagreed, and I will call Ahmed and say, Ahmed, I thought you were a Pentecost elder. Why are you doing this to me? And he says that, Mensro, anyhow. But the next moment, he will hit me hard. But Mr. Speaker, I also got somebody amongst them to pound small. I also took advantage of his emotions, and I provoked him lightly so that I also settle scores. My senior brother, Honorable Emmanuel Amakofibua. Mr. Speaker, I recall at one point you had to settle the matter where I would constantly parading and flagging my standing orders. And he felt it. At the end of the day, that was the beauty of democracy. And I told my brother, no more Ato. Mr. Speaker, Ato will talk to you nicely. Have a good conversation. By 5 o'clock, he will call you and tell you, Kwamena, no deal. The political committee says we can't support you. Mr. Speaker, many did not understand why I was combative on a number of occasions. There were those who didn't know how the heat was on me and were saying that you are majority leader, reach out. Mr. Speaker, the minority were such a tough, stubborn, difficult side. Mr. Speaker, you could never have an agreement with them because they were smelling power. And I understand, rightly so. The number of government business I would have loved to complete for political expediency and perhaps for purposes of principle, I did not get the support from my respected colleague. Many were the disappointment, Mr. Speaker. I'm sad that as a House, we could not deal with the following. One, the 1D1F. Mr. Speaker, I'm still of the conviction that this was a government policy to help the private sector. Mr. Speaker, being from the private sector fraternity, there was no way I viewed the initiative as a giveaway, as a freebie, especially so when the majority side had compromised and agreed to take away the raw materials component of the support to the private sector. But again, our colleagues could not support, not even to allow us to take some of the companies out and proceed to approve them. Mr. Speaker, the nomination of justices for the Supreme Court, which as a House, we vetted them but could not pass them, is also one disappointment to me as a leader. These are citizens of our country who, for no fault of theirs, have earned that call to serve at the highest court of the land. Mr. Speaker, I will not belabor their CV, but we know that these were citizens of substance who could have contributed their quota in enriching the jurisprudence of our country at the highest level. But again, we could not reach an agreement. And to date, I had to look in my direction. Look in my direction. I'm addressing some of your mischief. Mr. Speaker, again, we could not have a deal, and we've left it hanging. It has become odious. Mr. Speaker, I wish, as a House, we could have handled the World Bank $250 million facility to support the financial sector. This was also a facility that had gone through the committee process, and the House could have carried it for government to cushion the financial sector. But again, for good reasons known to my friends opposite me, we could not have a deal. But Mr. Speaker, the Frenchman will say, c'est la vie. This is life. We cannot push anymore, but to look forward to a new day, to also hold the new government feet to the fire. Get them to be accountable, get them to do what is right, and not get personal, but rather enrich governance of our country. Mr. Speaker, this government has achieved so much for the people of Ghana, but not a perfect government. Mr. Speaker, if our friends will today talk about corruption, I want to remind them that the call of corruption was on them when they previously ruled this country for 8 years.